Hi folks, this is just a quick continuation video with our Chief Steamer 155 in 240 volt only. I want to talk about electric sources. So we just did a whole video on how to wire the machine and what the three wires are in a single phase 240 volt system, which I don't really want to confuse people with electric talk, but it's a little important to get into, again, in how we came up with the specs of this machine. So if we look at performance, we have 120 volt, which is called single phase. It's 120 volts, and we're only going to make a certain amount of power. We've maxed that out with all our 120 volt machines. They're all going to drop pressure. You're going to have to use them a certain way. They're all going to need a certain amount of time to recover. So that's 120 volt. With this machine in what we're calling single phase 240 volt, we've made more power. Now, if we want to make more power, where do we go? If you say, well, I think your 155 machine is good, but why isn't it as good as a diesel? Or why isn't it as good as some of these more powerful machines that they're calling 5 kW, 10 kW, 15 kW? Well, those are just monster machines. If we compare any electric machine to a diesel machine, it's still not a fair comparison. The diesel machine is always going to win. So if we compare my machine, if you want to compare the Rhino machine to a diesel, the diesel is going to win. The diesel has a gigantic boiler and you're lighting a fire under a gigantic boiler. It's going to produce never-ending steam and barely drop pressure. We're not doing diesel. And you're going to find that diesel you can't use inside. So I've never made a diesel machine. I'm not going to make a diesel machine. Diesel machines are very big. They smell. They're really expensive. They're great performers, but I don't want to deal with the problems with diesel. And I don't want to charge that much money. So we're never going to do a diesel. Now, the only other source of electric other than this single phase 240 voltage would be if we go into what's called three-phase electricity. Three-phase electricity would be adding another phase or another wire with 120 volts. Now we'd be into 277 volts. We'd be into, say, 480 volts. We increase our voltage. Now, by increasing your voltage, you're tremendously increasing the wattage that you can make a heater. That's why some of these steamers out there, if you've seen the specs on them and you're looking at something that says 10 kW, 10 kW is the equivalent of, say, 10,000 watts, which is basically instant steam. It's basically, it's something that would heat up in a nanosecond, never drop pressure. You'd be able to make absolutely incredible specs. But nobody has three-phase electric. No home is going to have three-phase electric, and most normal commercial buildings aren't going to have three-phase electric. You're only going to see three-phase electric in industrial buildings. So unless you're in an industrial building, that's the only place where you're going to see three-phase electric anyway. So why make a three-phase machine when the expense is just astronomical? I mean, astronomical, where you're talking $8,000, $10,000 for the machine itself, and very few places where you can use it. So that takes away three-phase electric. So if we can't go with three-phase electric because nobody has it and the cost is prohibitive, and we don't want to do diesel because diesel machines are very expensive, they're very big, they smell, and you can't use them indoors, it leaves us with two choices. It leaves us with 120 volt electric, which is what you've seen in our machines that we've previously had, or we do the 240 volt single phase, which is our 155 machine, and we've already explained how to wire it and how not to be afraid of it in our previous video. So that's the reasoning for different machines at different power. So we've settled on 240 volt single phase. Let's move on.